Hey guys, welcome back to Black Clover Mobile. In today's video, we are talking Langris and Yuno. They're in the game at the moment on Asia server, a little bit away for global server or NA server. And I wanted to go through whether they're worth pulling. Now, TLDR, I think for most free-to-play, it's always hard to speak from a paid perspective because it depends how much of a whale you are, and I can never judge that. But for most free-to-play players, I think it's a fairly easy skip. Langris, we'll talk about him in a sec, but essentially he doesn't fit for me, and especially with where the current meta is, I just don't think he really has a spot. Yes, against some of those mono blue teams, he can be a little bit of a counter, but I just don't think his multipliers and his self-buffing is enough to warrant him over a bunch of other units. So we'll talk about that. And then we have Yuno, who I think Yuno is a great tech options for offense, but I don't have what is required to make him work at the moment. However, I do think he will be worth it in the future. That's my TLDR. Basically, they're decent, but I'd still skip because they will go into standard banner as well. Now, the one thing I also want to mention, because whenever you talk about a character, and I'm not saying they're bad, I mean, in Arena, you can theoretically make any character, especially any damage dealing character, work. If you fight a team that you can outspeed and you just run Funeral, you run Red Charlotte, you run that character and either another damage dealer to deal some damage or a buffer to make them deal more damage, and then they just take infinite turns, you can make any damage dealer work. It's just when I look at it, I'm like, would this replace in my normal team as like the best option? When we've got things like Noel and Julius already that we pulled, I just don't see these guys filling the role for me at the moment. So let's go through it. Langris. Okay, first up, his ult is AoE, 86%. It's not a crazy multiplier, and the only buff he gives is the increased favored damage, which isn't crazy. Inflicts HP recovery immunity. Now, this is one thing that can be nice, especially for fighting things like Charmies and stuff if you're countering blue with him. So like I said, he does fill that counter role decently, but I still wouldn't go the investment for him. That is just my personal take on it. Now, his skill 2 is one that steals SP from an ally. It may sound stupid, but if you've got an ally like Mars is a perfect example, who always uses his combo attack, or if you're using something like the Charlotte, the Red Charlotte, who normally you're trying to get that mark on and then you're happy to combo with her, then this is perfectly fine because those combo attack units, you can steal the SP from them. And like in your first rotations of skills, it won't impact them. So that is fine. It gives himself the speed buff to get him around faster. This kind of ability, I feel like if this had, instead of the speed buff, if it had grant another turn, it would make him so much better. But it's just a bit meh in my personal opinion, seeing it is just a raw buff. It's not like something like Julius, who gets a big ass AoE attack with then you stack his page and it reduces an enemy's action gauge to 0 and then he gains the speed buff. It just doesn't have as high a value in my opinion, even though it is giving him 2 SP, provided you have someone to steal it from. Basic attack, we got an SP +1 chance, which isn't too bad, especially if you're attacking an enemy that he's beneficial against. Now, his LR passive, when HP is below 30%, against immortality. We've seen this from a bunch of characters now. We've got Fuegoleon with it. We've got dude, why is the guy's name left me? I mean, that's Licked. Yeah, we got Licked as well with it. So that's that thing. His combo attack, worth noting, does remove barriers, which can be clutch in certain situations. And then if you go into getting him duped, at the start of a turn, he starts getting extra SP, and this can make him a crazy battery. So, like I said, free to play, you're not going to have that. And I just don't think this is enough to warrant pulling on this banner. That is my personal opinion. Like I said, you can definitely make him work if you really like the character. But at the end of the day, I don't like the character personally from the anime, and his kit isn't enough to like really get me excited. Now, as we jump into Yuno, we do have a good character here based purely on this passive. When reaching LR, if all allies are of the power attribute, grants 20% increased mobility buff. This is essentially going to get him first turn in mono red teams. And then we have the ultimate, which is total silence, taunt, and reduced mobility. Now, this basically locks enemy boosters out of using boosting abilities because they can't use their special skill and they can't use their skill 2. This is really nice. He's going to go turn 1 and he's going to beat it. So I think he's going to be a fantastic counter in mono red teams against speed teams that only have the 1 booster, so that you can guarantee yourself that you lock them out and then you go. A lot of people will run just Veltos with 3 other units, and Veltos is meant to give them all the turn advantage. In that case, you just bring a mono red team, you use him, you use his ult on the Veltos. The Veltos can no longer use his ultimate. He can't boost his teammates. Then you your whole team gets to act before them. When we look at red teams currently in the meta, the common thing that you're probably going to be pairing this with is going to be Summer Noel, Finral probably for the boost, and Red Charlotte to get the mark and the defense break. And basically, if you have a really juiced up Noel, I can see this being very meta on offense. It's not really a defense thing because you're not controlling who he's attacking, but very meta on offense to counter some of those speed plays. And for me, on my main account, I would love to have a copy of this guy, but I'm not willing to dump the summons in just to be able to counter some teams. So I am going to summon for him here on my Asia server, just a few summons just to see if we can get him for a bit of fun. But yeah, I think this is where he's going to be a really good niche counter to some teams in Arena, and I think he's really going to be beneficial to some free-to-play players if you have him for that. But because it's only for some teams, it's not going to be every team. I don't think it's still worth using those summons. We've got so many banners that we're saving for at the moment, so I think it's still worth saving. But if you do happen to get him from future banners or something like on an off banner, definitely a good unit to go ahead and test out in that mono red. The other reason I'm not pulling for him is that I never duped my Noel, just based on the speed at which they're releasing banners. I don't think I'm gonna dupe my Noel just because there's too much coming. If I had a max duped Noel, I would probably consider pulling for this guy, because then my Noel would be more reliably able to solo nuke an enemy team, because once you put that Charlotte, if you had him with Finral, Charlotte, and Noel, if you had a max dupe Noel that was really well invested, then you could get a one-shot on an enemy with her ultimate, and then you could just start snowballing her basics to get multiple extra turns, and away you go, and you can really counter that. But because my Noel's not crazy, I use her in a cleave team with just Finral, Charlotte, and my Julius, and my Noel normally doesn't get a kill when she uses her ult, even though she gets the crit rate buff from the Finral, and she also gets the death shred from the Charlotte. Keep in mind, we do have Mars, which is also a thing, so you might not get that death shred, but that's basically what I can see him being used in. When we look at his other skills, we got an AoE with a silence, which only locks out skill 2, but this isn't a bad one to use on turn 2. A lot of characters are going to use their ult first up, and so if they use their ult, then next turn they're always normally going to be using their skill 2, so you can lock them out of that. So he does synergize pretty well. We got the mobility buff there as well, and then we look to dupes. When attacking the enemies afflicted with silence or total silence, he gains the SP. It's nice, but I don't think this really matters as much. It's not as important, because the real importance is locking the enemy that you want to lock out at the start of battle, because of the way this works. But once again, that does require him to have all allies of the power attribute, which when we look to Black Asta in the future, then he can be used really nicely on offense to pair with basically any red unit type synergies that we have in the future. And like I said, because we've got Finral, who's a booster who's red that can synergize, and we got Red Charlotte, who's just a really powerful support in general for offense teams. You know, he's always going to have stable support for future units, but then obviously we've got Black Asta and Witch Queen. But that's my summary of him, basically. Like I said, I still think for most free-to-play players, it's a skip banner, but because I'm a degenerate and I've got 2 accounts, my main account, I'm playing it more sensibly, saving, but this one, we're going to pop just a couple, just like 20 summons, which I know I say 20 and it's going to turn into 30, 40, 50, but I just want to pop a couple summons for the sake of popping a couple summons, okay? We're going to do 20 and then we're going to stop. I swear, guys, I swear. We did 100 on Season 3, which we really didn't need to summon on at all. Please. I mean, we did get Jack and 3 copies of his skill page. We're used to getting shafted now on this account. We did get a godly reroll on it though. Let's do one. Let's just feather it in. Let's just feather it in. Okay, good door. Good dress. Open your eye. Rip. We're only doing one more temple. That's it. I promise, guys. I promise. Only one more temple. Ooh, good amount of rare heroes. I do like that for summon, for stamina. Last one. That's it. Don't be silver. Okay, gold. Good dress. Good dress. Good dress. Bad dress. Still can't open it. Yeah, no, we're done. We're done, guys. That's it. Dude, I knew I shouldn't have done anything. Just costing myself pity on the next banner we're going to pull on. Rip. Anyway, that is my... Ooh, we did get a Veltos dupe, though. That's good. I do need Veltos dupes. I need Veltos and Finral dupes. But yeah, that's it, guys. Like I said, I don't think it's really worth pulling on these banners personally for free to play, even though I do think Yuno is going to be very tech usage offense wise. It's just too many summons to go to try and get him. Like I said, if you put 10 or 20, you know, test your luck. Happy days if you get him, have some fun. But in general, I think you want to save the bulk of your summons for the upcoming banners. As always, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.